So let's talk about how to get results. And I'm going to talk to you briefly about what I call Pareto's principle, or the 80-20 rule. I shouldn't say what I call it, is what is called the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. So essentially what that means when it comes to business is 20% of what you do every day generates 80% of your revenue, right? So in this crazy time, don't you think that we need to focus more on the 20% or more of the results that we generate? So here's what and I use the word they, have come up with. And these are guys like Jay Abrams, Tony Robbins, all the big names in marketing and money research when it comes to business, that there are 5 areas only that make up the 20% of results drivers for your business. And they're simply getting more leads in the door, right? If you're not focusing on that, your business is slowly dying because you need that constant flow of leads into your business. Then how do you get them to convert to becoming more paying clients? And then how do you get those paying clients to come back and buy from you more often? And because you're wondering about how to get them to come back, buy from you more often, you can increase the value and therefore increasing your prices, which results in higher profits. So small incremental changes can produce massive results. And I want to share with you this cash flow calculator, because I think it's really important, is it does help you to identify those 5 areas. And I'm going to teach you how you can monetize your profit and loss statement by using this tool, right? So more leads, more conversions, more transactions, higher prices, more profits. Those are all in red. The other 3 items, more sales, more revenue, more profit, is in black. And the reason why it's in black is only the stuff in red can you have an impact on. The stuff in black are just the outcome. They're the numbers, right? So let's talk about what we can do when we have a baseline for a business that brings in 1,000 leads a year, converts them at a 25% conversion rate, which is sells 1 in 4 of their leads into a paying customer, and you just generated 250 customers. Get them to come back and buy from you 10 times throughout the year, and they buy $100 widget from you. You just made $250,000 gross revenue in your business. And then if you have a 25% net profit margin, then you've pocketed $62,500. But let me show you how, just with incremental increases in each one of these areas, can have a much bigger impact, an exponential impact on your business. So let's talk about leads. We talk about increasing your lead generation by 10%. And maybe if you're currently doing networking and referrals, we add one more activity on there, like social media, doing posts that has a call to action on your post to get people to reach out and have a direct conversation with you. And you bring in 100 more leads over the next 12 months. That is just under 10 leads per month. So like 9 point something or whatever, right? And then we can get them through a sales process or a better conversion process, either through a campaign or a funnel, or even just having a sales script that you or your staff use. You can increase your conversions by 10%. So now you have a 27.5% conversion rate from leads to customers. You've just increased your customer base to 306. That's not a 10% increase in your customer base. You would expect it is, but it's not. It's a exponential growth. This is like 17% growth in your customer base. So if we get them to come back and buy one more time, which is a 10% growth, and because you offer so much value, you can increase your prices by 10%, and you've just made 366,000, right? $116,000 more, which is about 30% increase in gross revenue, 31%, I think, if I remember right, right? And then if we do the same for your profits, right? Increase your profits by 10%, you're now at a 27.5% net profit margin. You just made 100 grand that you get to put in your pocket at the end of the year, right? So that is a 41% increase in business. And all you did was tweak 10% incremental growth over the year of these 5 different areas. So it can be transformational what can happen. But let me show you what happens if we do a 50% increase. And I have some case studies I'm going to share with you in a few minutes that will blow your mind as to how much growth you can actually dial in with your business if you start implementing a system that works for your business. So let's say we implement a system of consistent lead generation for your business. I want you to think of it as a wagon wheel. Right now, if you're doing referrals and networking and word of mouth, right? Think of those three spokes as the spokes on your wagon wheel, right? If you only have three spokes or two spokes on your wagon wheel, how well is it going to go around? How fast can you go? Not very. But if we add 8, 9, 10 more spokes to your wagon wheel to create more predictable lead generation, how fast can your wheel go? And this is where the 50% increase can come in. It can be really transformational in your business. And we do the same thing with more conversions, help you implement a dialed in sales process and sales system that can really make dramatic changes in your business. All of a sudden now your conversion rate's at 37%. Not a huge growth, but still significant because now you have 563 customers. That's more than doubled your customer base over the previous year, right? Which is really, really exciting. And if we can get them to come back and buy from you 5 more times, which is just getting them to come back because you offer great customer service, they love you, they love your product, they love your service, right? They come back and they buy from you. And because you offer so much value, right? And I want you to think about this. If you offer 4 times the value, they'll easily pay twice the price. So here we haven't gone up twice the price, but we've gone up 1.5 times, $150 for that same widget. You just made $1.2 million. And what's really critical, you guys, about this, only 6% of businesses in North America make over $1 million in revenue a year. Only 6%, right? That means the rest of the businesses out there are struggling. There's a really big chunk, and you may or may not fit into this, but there's a really big chunk. 84% of businesses out in the world today, from startup to wherever they are, make less than 100 grand a year in revenue. So my goal is to help you guys go from that spot to over $1 million, go from the 84% or the 94% and get into the 6%, right? Because that's where you really need to be able to create that lifestyle that you want in your life, right? So let's go one step further and talk about profits, increasing our profits, managing costs a little bit better, implementing systems in your business to reduce overhead, reduce those extra costs. And you've now just put almost $500,000 a month into your pocket. And I want to ask you, what would change for you in your business with that kind of money in your pocket right now? What would change? Would you go on a vacation? Go on a holiday? Would you go buy a house, a secondary house, a new car, right? Gives you some options. And I want to relate a story to you. My wife and I, when we made our first million, we set a goal is, hey, we're going to hit our first million and we're going to go on a vacation. We hit our first million and we couldn't go anywhere because I was too busy doing the work I needed to do to make the money happen, right? And so I said, well, look, when we hit 2 million, we'll go on that vacation. So we hit 2 million and we still didn't go because I was still too busy, right? But we did eventually get to go because I put systems and processes into place that allowed me to free up my time. And so that was what really triggered us to be able to make it to the next level, right? So this cash flow calculator can, and I'm hoping you guys can see that it really shows you how you can financially transform your business, right?